My name is Sophie Harper, I'm 28, and everything changed for me in a single, unforgettable day. Picture this, I'm standing on my parents' front porch in Asheville, North Carolina. Rain is pouring, soaking through my coat. In one hand, I'm gripping a suitcase. In the other, the sting of their words still lingers, telling me I'm a disappointment for daring to follow my passion. And then, not even hours later, I'm staring down at my phone screen, heart hammering in my chest, reading the words that would change everything. I just won $37 million in the lottery. Talk about cosmic irony. The same day they tried to teach me a lesson about being realistic, life handed me an opportunity they could never have predicted. What they didn't realize is that by pushing me out, they forced me into the very future they tried to prevent. A future I never imagined, one that started with losing everything but led me straight to discovering who I really was. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me rewind, back to the moments when it all started to fall apart, back when I still believed that everything I loved was slipping beyond reach. If you've ever felt like the world was closing in on you, if you've chased dreams that others didn't understand, stay with me. This isn't just a story about money. This is about finding your fire when you're left out in the cold. I grew up in Asheville, the odd one out in a family that measured success in numbers and titles. My dad, Daniel, is a financial planner who views life through the lens of spreadsheets and risk assessments. Every choice in his world had to be efficient, secure, and planned. My mother, Laura, ran a high school as principal, her life shaped by structure, discipline, and social expectations. And then there was me, the black sheep who believed in beauty over logic. I found magic in forgotten things, old buttons, cracked glass, rusty charms. I turned them into jewelry that whispered stories. As a child, I'd sit under the maple tree in our backyard for hours, lost in strings of beads from my grandmother Clarara's collection. To me, art wasn't a hobby. It was the most honest thing I'd ever known. But to my parents, it was a phase. Something I'd eventually grow out of. You need a stable career, Sophie, my dad would say, nudging me toward accounting. My mom would nod gently, concern in her eyes. Art isn't predictable. You need something you can rely on. Clarara, though, she understood. A retired art teacher with a quiet rebel's heart, she'd slip me sketchbooks and whisper, "The world's already gray enough, sweetheart. You're here to add color." She wore my chunky necklaces to her book club like they were made of diamonds and told everyone they were her favorite treasures. When I turned 21, she handed me her full vintage bead collection. I'll never forget the tears in her eyes. "These were mine," she said. "Now it's your turn to create magic." That gift meant more to me than my entire business degree, which I only pursued to keep the peace at home. By day, I worked at a bank. The numbers bored me, drained me. At lunch, I'd pull out the notebook Clarara had given me and fill it with designs. Weekends were for craft markets, where I sold my pieces and soaked up compliments from strangers who actually believed in me. My online shop was slowly picking up traction, not enough to live on, but enough to keep my dream alive. Living with my parents at 28 wasn't part of the plan, but Asheville's rental prices didn't leave many options. I poured every dollar I could into building my business. But every dinner turned into a battle. "Did you apply for that branch manager role?" my mom would ask. Dad never failed to chime in, "That job has benefits, Sophie. You can't keep living here." I'd tell them about my online sales, the boutique that had started stocking my pieces, anything to prove I was making progress. But they didn't hear it. They saw Etsy orders. I saw a growing brand. When I found a listing for a cozy loft above a downtown coffee shop, I let myself hope. It wasn't cheap, but I could make it work if I kept my job just a little longer. I scheduled a visit and imagined how freeing it would feel to have a space all my own, no more measuring bead trays to fit under my bed. Clarara's voice echoed in my mind. "It's time, Sophie. Fly." I hoped that if I showed my parents I had a real plan, maybe, just maybe, they'd finally support me. I was wrong. 2 weeks before everything changed, I discovered my dad reading a spreadsheet I'd hidden in my desk, tracking my jewelry income. "This isn't a business," he said, tossing the paper aside. "It's a hobby." Then I found my journal sitting open on their bed, my dreams, my insecurities laid bare. They'd read it. And somehow, they thought they had the right. I didn't argue. I just started planning my exit. The final confrontation happened on a Tuesday. I'd spent the whole day rehearsing how I'd tell them I was quitting the bank to pursue my business full-time. I had everything: projections, a plan, contracts. But none of it mattered. You're throwing away your future for some beads, Dad exploded. Then Mom, quieter but crueler, real artists don't live off their parents, Sophie. I showed them my sales. I tried. But Dad just sneered. You made $500 last month. That's not a career, that's lunch money. Then I saw it again, my journal, lying on the counter. You read my journal again? I asked, shaking. Dad met my eyes, cold and unapologetic. We needed to understand what's wrong with you. That was the final straw. Either you keep your job, he said, or you leave. Ethan, my older brother, the one person I thought might defend me, just looked down. Maybe Dad's right, he said softly. That hurt more than anything. I packed that night. My suitcase, a birthday gift from Clara, barely held the pieces of my life. I had to choose: clothes or tools, essentials or memories. Each item I left behind felt like a wound. By morning, the rain had returned. I dragged my suitcase down the stairs, eyes puffy from crying. My dad stood at the front door, arms folded. My mom stayed in the kitchen, face clouded with guilt, but she said nothing. You've got till the end of the month. The phone stays on till then, Dad said, like a banker closing an account. I stepped out into the storm. The door shut behind me. I had $342 and a credit card already over its limit. I called my best friend Jess. She was about to catch a flight. Take the spare key, she said, then remembered her apartment had flooded. I tried 3 more friends. Out of town. No space. Family visiting. One by one, the rejections piled up. Cold, soaked and shaking, I walked for nearly an hour before stumbling into the Blue Ridge Inn, a run-down motel I'd never noticed before. Maggie, the owner, greeted me with warm eyes. Tough day? She asked. I nodded, handing over $75 for a room. The carpet was old, the bed creaky, but it was dry. I stepped into the shower and collapsed to the floor, sobbing until the steam fogged the mirror and muffled my cries. Through the thin walls, I could hear Maggie and her husband arguing over overdue bills. Somehow, knowing they were struggling too made me feel less alone. I woke up at 7:30 to my phone's alarm. My surroundings reminded me that I was no longer welcome at home. I was, by all accounts, homeless. And then I saw it, a notification from the lottery app. Congratulations, you've won. I had checked the numbers the night before, but the app had crashed. I opened it now. My heart nearly stopped. The digits, 08, 17, 23, 42, 54. The exact sequence Clara used to write in her old notebooks. Her lucky numbers. I pulled the physical ticket from my wallet and double-checked. Every number matched. I went to the official lottery site. The jackpot? $94 million. My cut after taxes? $37 million. This can't be real, I whispered. I called the lottery office. After a long pause, the woman confirmed it. Miss Harper, you're the winner. Congratulations. The room spun. She gave me instructions. Sign the ticket. Hire a lawyer. Tell no one. Yesterday, I had barely enough money for a motel. Today, I could buy the entire building. I started laughing. Loud, disbelieving laughter that didn't stop until Maggie knocked on the door, concerned. I won, I told her, tears still spilling. $37 million. And I used my grandma's numbers. Maggie looked stunned, then her face softened. She's still watching over you, she said, giving my hand a squeeze. Reality kicked in. I had to protect this money. I had to protect myself. Maggie connected me with her nephew Lucas, a financial advisor. Sitting in his sleek office in the same clothes I'd worn for days, I listened as he laid out a plan. We'll set up a blind trust, he said. You'll claim it anonymously. Most of it will be invested. A small portion will remain accessible. Everything's secure. I signed the papers, still half in disbelief. $300,000 would be kept liquid. The rest, locked away safely. But I had one request. I wanted to pay off Maggie and Tom's mortgage, anonymously. Lucas didn't even blink. We'll make it happen. That same day, I rented the loft above the coffee shop, the one I'd only dared to dream about weeks ago. I paid for the year in full. The realtor's jaw hit the floor when she saw the check. My first purchases were modest. New clothes, a laptop, tools for my craft. I splurged only on materials Clara would have loved. Shimmering stones, antique metals, glass that caught the light like hope. I kept the lottery win to myself. I needed space, not just physical, but emotional, to let the shock settle. From my new apartment, I could see Asheville's peaks stretching into the sky. They reminded me I wasn't just wealthy. I was finally free. Free to shape a life on my terms, a life I knew Clara would be proud of. A week later, I stopped by Bean Haven for coffee. I was just about to leave when I heard my name. Sophie. It was Ethan. He looked at my new coat, tailored, elegant, then glanced around like he wasn't sure how to start. Where are you staying? He asked, awkwardly. I've got my own place now, I said simply. He shifted, clearly uncomfortable. Mom and Dad, they've been asking about you. Thought maybe you'd come back. I let out a dry laugh. They threw me out into a thunderstorm, Ethan. Coming back wasn't exactly on my list. He looked down. We overreacted. Can we talk? We found a table. His eyes went straight to my watch, a designer piece I'd listed as a business expense, but loved for how bold it felt on my wrist. You seem different, he said cautiously. I am, I said. And I let the silence sit. He tried again. Mom's really upset. Maybe you could call? Smooth things over. I placed my coffee cup down a little too firmly. They should be the ones apologizing, Ethan. Not the other way around. He exhaled slowly, clearly hoping to fix things. I just want us to be okay again. Like before. I softened, but didn't budge. They broke that version of us, Ethan. I didn't. I'm doing well now. Tell them that. I walked away feeling lighter. Anger no longer weighed me down. It had transformed into clarity. 2 weeks after that rainy night, I launched Clara's Keepsakes, a fresh start for my jewelry brand. With a clean new website, stunning product photos, and a little digital marketing, the orders started rolling in, one even from a rising local influencer. Soon after, I signed a lease for a boutique studio in Asheville's Arts District. It had exposed brick walls, skylights, and more heart than any office cubicle I'd ever sat in. I hired 2 emerging designers, both talented, both struggling to stay afloat. They reminded me of a younger version of myself. But the most meaningful step? I launched the Clara Evans Foundation, a grant program for creatives trying to build something without financial safety nets. It felt like her voice guiding me every step of the way. Then, unexpectedly, a text. My parents had somehow gotten my new number, clearly passed along by Ethan. Ethan says you're doing well, Dad wrote. We should talk. Mom added, we miss you, Sophie. I didn't answer. I channeled every emotion into my craft, into the studio that was quickly becoming sacred ground. Each necklace, each bracelet was an echo of Clara's encouragement. Not long after, Dr. Emily Ruiz, my old college therapist, called. Your mom reached out, she said. She's worried, thinks you're caught up in something dangerous. She heard rumors about you coming into money. I assured her everything was legitimate. Still, I agreed to meet. One session turned into a much-needed checkpoint. Emily helped me articulate what I needed moving forward: respect, accountability, boundaries. I wasn't ready to see my parents again, but I knew, eventually, I would have to. 3 weeks after I'd left home, it happened. They showed up at the lobby of my building. My mom rushed toward me, eyes rimmed with tears. We were so worried, she whispered. Dad stood behind her, stunned by the luxury around him. Marble floors, modern lighting, the sort of place he never imagined I could afford. How'd you find me? I asked calmly. Mom hesitated. Ethan, followed you here once. I didn't argue. I just led them upstairs. Their jaws dropped the moment they saw my loft, the panoramic view, the decor, the calm elegance. This place must cost a fortune, Dad muttered. $3,000 a month, I said. Paid for the year in advance. Mom reached out, fingers brushing the soft wool of my sweater. Are you in trouble? I sat them down and pulled a laminated card from my drawer. My winning ticket. These were Clara's numbers, I said, steady. I won $37 million. The same night you told me to leave. Dad stared, trying to process it all, pride flickering behind the disbelief. Mom gasped, hand to her chest. You called my work useless, I continued. Read my journal. Shoved me into the night with nowhere to go. Tears rolled down Mom's face. We didn't think you'd actually leave. We were trying to protect you, Dad offered. Give you security. No, I replied. You wanted me to be safe by being you. I need you to understand you were wrong, and I need you to accept that this money, this life, is mine. Built my way. They nodded, too stunned to respond. I'm hosting a dinner this Saturday, I said. Come, but only if you're ready to meet me where I am, not where you left me. They left in silence. And for the first time, I truly exhaled. Months later, the gallery launch of Clarara's Keepsakes felt like a dream come true. The space glowed with soft lighting and delicate music. Critics mingled with collectors. Jess was there, beaming. So was Noah, a thoughtful, kind carpenter I'd met at a local maker's fair. His quiet belief in me steadied everything. Maggie and Tom, now my official partners, had transformed the old Blue Ridge Inn into an artist's retreat, complete with studios, workshops, and a garden Clarara would have adored. My parents stood by the wine table, Mom proudly wearing a custom necklace, asking about the stones. Dad admired a bracelet but didn't ask about profits. It was progress. Slow, but sincere. Later, Noah pulled me into a quiet corner. You would have done all this without the lottery, he said. And he was right. Clarara had seen it before anyone else. My talent, my grit. The money didn't create the dream. It just made the road shorter. The night my parents shut the door on me, I lost their version of who I should be. And that was my liberation. By sunrise, I wasn't just rich in dollars. I was rich in purpose, in peace, in the chance to finally live my truth. If you've ever felt trapped in someone else's expectations, know this, rock bottom isn't always the end. Sometimes, it's the place you find your true foundation. Thanks for walking this path with me, through heartbreak, healing, and everything in between. If my story resonated, hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, and join me for more tales where creativity meets courage. Keep building. Keep believing. Your truth is worth it.